All right, so let's talk about money. January did $500 in podcasts, $2,650. It was about $1,500, over $1,700. And so this is a side business for me. This is a thing for additional income, not something that I put food on the table with. Our average month was $2,346. Our high was $5,405. So the year total, we will be just shy of $30,000. I want to triple that number this year, and I think that that's attainable. What's going on, everybody? It is Tom with Innova Digital, and perhaps the last time I'm going to be saying that. And we're going to go into that in a little bit here. But as you can tell from how I started off this video, I'm very excited about this video. It's the much awaited business update, kind of part 2. We are a little over 2 years into building this podcast studio into a business. I'm very proud to say that we hit my goal of last video of 3xing the business, and now we are into the 6 figures, which is crazy to think about and very exciting. You know, when I had this idea to start this business, again, my main goal was just to cover rent and make some additional money. But now the way things are going, it seems like this will be definitely a pretty solid arm of the business, if not something that will exceed the video production. And so, of course, I'm going to go into the details as to why I think that we're doing halfway decent, some of the things that we could be doing better, and hopefully being able to pass a lot of these lessons that I've learned on to you guys. Which brings me to my next point. We have a new thing in development here, and from the numerous people that reach out asking for updates, asking for either tech support questions or more detailed business stuff. I wanted to be able to harbor a community of these people. And so as of now, we are starting what is going to be a community-based platform for studio owners. I've been lucky enough to be able to have influence on this market, it being so new and unique. And between a couple of videos doing well and obviously just a whole bunch of outreach and support from other business owners and other people interested in this space has put me in a position where I feel almost like a duty to help other people do this. Basically, from this point on, the YouTube channel that you're watching this on is going to get rebranded. Innova Digital is going to remain our video production company. From this point forward, this channel is going to be more dedicated to basically the studio business. So the group is going to be comprised of people that are already doing it, studio owners, and then there's going to be a good chunk of people that join the group to learn how to do this. And I think there'll be a good synergistic relationship between those two parties, helping each other out, going over information, so I'm not fielding all these DMs myself. I still plan to do free YouTube videos. There's still a lot of stuff that I'll give away and give free access to, but I think a lot of the business side of stuff that not everyone, but some of you have an interest in, is stuff that I plan to kind of push more content towards this platform. If that sounds like something you're interested in, there's going to be a link in the description below. It's basically just a wait list for this group. And when we go live, you'll get a notification. And should you like to join, we'd love to have you. And so with that and the announcements out of the way, let's kind of dive into how we got here. So in 2023, we probably did around 200 to 250 sessions. I'm actually pretty bad about keeping track, but going off of the numbers and a good estimate, that feels about accurate. Now, some sessions are double sessions, some sessions are an entire day's worth of things. So the actual podcast number could even be higher, but we obviously produce a lot of shows, and I've been very grateful for that. And then obviously what you guys all want to know about are the updated numbers. So again, I won't go into specific details month by month, but as I said at the beginning of this video, it is now a 6-figure business, averaging anywhere from $7,000 to $15,000. And another perfect timing for this video is this month, It is January of 2024. It is going to be our best month at the podcast studio, just getting a bit shy of $20,000, which is super exciting. Now you can tell that there's a good fluctuation between these numbers, and I think that's a couple of things. We don't push any sort of membership. We have them. We have clients that work with us routinely, but some of the good months and bad months are basically just determined by when people pay their invoices, and it's usually front loaded. So some months it seems like we did really well, but maybe didn't work as hard as other months. So in general, that is kind of our average month there. And so as you guys could probably tell, that's starting to feel a little bit more serious, a little bit more like an actual business. I still feel like it's at that point where I don't know if I'd be willing to kill off my other company. And I know a couple other studio owners approached it the same way that I did and feel similar that, you know, I think that there'll be a time that you might have to commit a little bit more to one or the other. But as of now, the two companies work pretty well together, and I'm able to do both and sustain things that way. Another pretty big change over the last year is as of the first of this year, Colton is now full-time with the company. Round of applause for Colton. When I hired him on, initially, he was just doing 10 hours a week for me, kind of helping between both companies. And luckily now we're at a point where we're busy enough and making enough that I'm able to support him full time. And it was a decision that we mutually agreed on. He wanted to move past full time and work with me full time. And I'm grateful to be in a position to do that now. And I know a lot of business owners are out there considering hiring their first person. And again, there's so much I could go into on that, and that we'll probably do that in a separate video that will be hosted within the community. So when I made that post asking about, what sort of stuff could I ask other studio owners, a lot of people wanted to know about how you get clients, right? And I think that's what everybody wants to know about. And I wish I had better answers for you, but from what we're doing to what I've interviewed a couple other people as to what they're doing, the truth is that none of us really have a solid plan. Now, to keep it specific to me, we have upped our Facebook and Instagram ad spend, and that is about it. One of the things I've really enjoyed about this business is it feels like the growth of it has been a little bit more organic opposed to the video production company. Now, I think that's a couple of things. I think that this is new, trendy, interesting, a lower price point, but there's a couple other factors that play in as to why this might actually be a better business than the video production. This business has been very good, that it's very turnkey, transactional, simple, and we don't really have anyone that's upset. Everything is done, as I've said in other videos, pretty much you get what you get. There's not a whole lot of a la carte pricing. There's not a lot of negotiation. There's no secrecy as to what we're doing or trying to, figure out how much you can afford type stuff. Prices are on the website. You either want to do it or you don't. And that's been really good for us. And then obviously anyone that's interested in pushing their podcast consistently realizes that I got to come in here fairly often. So the repeatability of this service is a lot greater than most video companies deal with their everyday customer. So now that I'm 2 years in, and I would guess we'll call it successful, would I recommend this for somebody? And I had advice pretty early on that I think this business is right for some people and maybe not so right for other people. I think that people that are approaching it from a owner-operator perspective, meaning that they plan to be the ones working the machines, they're either a solo entrepreneur or maybe just have a small team, and it's stuff that they physically know how to do. They come from the production world, or they are familiar with studios or audio. I think for them, that business completely makes sense. I think that recording studios that maybe we're just offering audio-only services don't realize how quickly you could just transform your business into offering a service like this with the purchase of a couple of cameras and watching a couple of videos on how to do lighting. When I was running the studio business, I was charging $30 to $35 an hour. And granted, it was a home studio, but it was a pretty nice setup. And I know a lot of recording studios that have tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of equipment, and they're still struggling to get $50 to $100 an hour from artists. And artists are just tough to work with. This business from a price point perspective is, closer to $200 an hour and about the same costing gear, if not less when you really think about it. So I think for them, it makes sense. I think for video agencies or anyone that is in the marketing space, building a studio like this to either offer to your clients or to sell it to add into a new revenue stream for your business is an absolutely no-brainer. And so for the people that have money and want to invest but don't necessarily want to do the work, yes, I think that this is a business that you could still do, but the chances are the vast majority of you guys watching, especially to this point in the video, are guys that are on the edge about doing this and thinking, hey, is this something that will go well? Is it going to go poorly? Can I even sustain it in my market? And those are all good questions. And my case isn't going to be your case. But from my initial research, and as we've been kind of building out this platform, we've interviewed a decent amount of studios. We've also built a spreadsheet of just about every studio in the US, and so many of them seem to be doing well. And so I don't want to say it's a gold rush type situation, but I definitely do think that there is opportunity in this space for the right people. Now, for the guys that have been watching since day one, you can already tell that the studio's come a long way. And for those really sharp guys, realize that this looks new, and this is actually going to be our fourth and final set at this studio space, which begs the next question. What are my future plans for this business, and where do I plan to see it go? And now that we've kind of maxed our space here, and I think that we're going to be at capacity fairly soon, hopefully this year we will be acquiring a building, a larger studio, to continue this business as well as open up other opportunities. And I'll probably save the majority of that for another video. But one of the real opportunity areas that I think will come with a bigger studio is the ability to do events and do slightly larger services where the production is a key part of the offering. And so what do I mean by that? There's a lot of event spaces that just give you the space, and then you got to hire your video team, you got to hire catering, you got to hire all this sort of stuff. I think the beauty of this business is it's very done for you, it's very straightforward and simple to understand, and I think that a lot of businesses appreciate that too. And as we're starting to get more serious clients, we've worked with a couple of big enough businesses at this point that I realize that we probably are underserving those clients a little bit more, and having a space that could be used for small workshops, small panel discussions, launch events and stuff like that is something that I would personally like to get into. So when we look for our new building, it'll be something that ideally has space to accommodate some sort of gathering, basically. I think one of the biggest things that I'll take away too is initially I was like, more rooms, more money, could serve it that way. But for anyone that watched the last video with our mega desk innovation, that wouldn't really be possible if we had tons of other studios. And while I'd love the ability to double book and have, be making twice the money when people are in the studio, it's a sizable investment to have 2 sets of this equipment. And basically our rolling desk system works pretty well, and I think that I'd like to maintain that, maybe opposed to getting a whole bunch of rooms that are smaller and trying to do it that way. It's been a very simple process for us, and I think it'll open up a lot of other opportunities for set design and making the most of maybe a smaller space. And I guess somewhat kind of as usual now, I kind of want to just go out doing some question and answers that we've had from the community so far. And so a lot of people want to know about an economical start to the studio. What is the price point that it really takes to get something like this done? And I think that there are varying degrees. I think when I started this, I kind of started with what I had and I didn't have a whole lot of other stuff. I think that a lot of people currently have some equipment and can cut down costs that way, but I think to really make a professional go at this, the bare bones is that you'll at least need a commercial space. And it doesn't need to be in a fancy building. It doesn't need to be completely perfect. But my recommendation is for people that are trying to do this as a premium service, don't do it out of your house, basically. So that would be that. And then from a gear perspective, again, you can cut corners, you can go smaller, but I would spend as much as you think you're able to spend. Again, if you have other business that is supporting this, plan to drop a little bit of money, kind of work at a loss a little bit. But then, as you can tell, in only 2 years, I was able to make this business a 6-figure business. And not that everyone will have that same case, but it's definitely doable. So when we get asked about doing builds, we often tell people it's probably going to be about $10,000 to $15,000 worth of equipment for a 3-camera, 1-set setup. And usually that doesn't include super fancy furniture or any sort of room modifications. But for people that are taking out a 1-year lease, buying some furniture, getting things all together, I think it's safer to say probably $25,000 to $50,000 is a better price point as to really what you should have aside when starting this. But again, for the right people, you might be able to start with less. And obviously, if you have more, I think that you'll be able to do a better job. Another question that we get asked all the time is, how do we find the right space? The space that you move into is obviously very important. And I think I've said in other videos, I moved into this space because it was sitting around the market for a while. I liked it enough, and I thought it was pretty perfect. And I think 2 years in, I actually feel pretty strong about it. We really like it here. We have a really good rate. We mostly have quiet neighbors, but behind me there is a building that has been kind of under construction for the 2 years that I've been here, and occasionally it is noisy and obnoxious, and it does put you in a bad scenario with clients when there's drilling happening during their session and you just have to be like, I'm sorry, there's nothing we can do about this. I'm sorry. And so when I move into the new building, hopefully it'll be something that is freestanding or at least just has quiet neighbors. But again, this will be a question that I think can go either way. But my recommendation is to find open space pretty cheaply. Good enough area. I think it needs to have not necessarily curb appeal, but think about the kind of clientele that you want coming in. Does it spark them to feel like, am I at a warehouse? Am I in some back alley? Or am I at a nice commercial building with a lobby and other businesses here? We luckily are in a nice, safe part of the city. It's a good building. As to what sort of space works best, again, having a wide open space hasn't been a bad thing for us because we've been able to section things off a little bit better, and then it makes Megadesk a little bit easier that we can just wheel it throughout the studio and not having to go through doorways. But there are still some times that I do wish that we had a couple of other sections to the studio. Namely, Colton and I kind of work just where we can within the studio now, but it'll be nice at our next space to have dedicated offices and some spaces that can be a little bit more private. We had people ask, what would I do differently knowing what I know now? Finding the right space is important. I think I would rather wait another 3-6 months to find the right opportunity than to jump into something that you're only going to be there for a year or two, and you're probably going to end up doing a year or two at some space. Moving is a total pain in the ass, and as I look around now, it's like there is so much stuff here that I'm not looking forward to moving, so I wouldn't do anything with short-term thinking in mind. Another thing is, I think that we're still kind of trying to get all of our cylinders firing, and so what I mean by that is, I think I've alluded to it in other videos, maybe it's by having another company that we have on our mind. I don't feel like I push this probably as much as I could, and I think that from my interviews with others has been a kind of resounding thing too. I think everyone's kind of figuring this thing out as it goes, and luckily we're at a point now that it's doing well, and I don't have to feel like it's on shaky ground by any means, but I also don't feel like I am putting 110% in, and I know there's a lot of other stuff that we could be doing. So my advice to people is don't half-ass it. I don't think that this is something that will yield the results you probably want with 10% effort. Another big thing that we would have done differently is we would have invested a little bit more into more sets initially. For about the first year of business, we just had that one set, and it wasn't until year 2 that we started venturing into a second and third and now 4th set to finish out the studio. And with the innovation, we'll call it, of Megadesk, building new sets is pretty cheap. It's a couple of lights, some furniture from Wayfair, and you're able to put stuff together pretty cheaply. And now our Studio 2 is our most popular space by far, and I think that it's been a good just value add to people. We don't charge more for certain spaces. It's all just whichever space you want to use, but you never know what people are going to like, and offering a variety has been a good thing for us, and I think a good thing for everybody else. So I would say if you can, push to have at least 2 different looks, maybe accommodating different group sizes. This goes back into marketing a little bit, but I think another thing I would have done in hindsight is dropped more money on advertising, and I guess I could still do that, right? But we're spending, I think, $10 to $15 a day now, but I think that we could do even more, and I think if I was smarter about pushing things on a short-term deal, like trying to cut deals like, oh, for this month we're going to do 15-20% off or something like that, and then pumping that ad a little bit more, I think would yield good results. As of now, we just do basically a general Chicago location-based targeting and then a retargeting ad for those that clicked onto our website, which again is definitely stuff that we're going to cover within this business group, but a couple of simple ads through Facebook that'll really help your business out. Another thing people wanted to know is, why do people keep coming back to us? And so I think that's a couple of things. I've said it in other videos, but luckily in Chicago, we are one of very few places that are doing this. A lot of people that come into the studio come to us and are like, thank God you guys were normal and picked up the phone, because we've called 2 other places and they just either seemed sketchy or didn't return our calls or just like had a crappy website. And I think our website's been really good, a really good sales tool. And then with the introduction of being able to just book online, it's so nice having not to talk to people ahead of time, I guess. Obviously, if you want to call us and ask questions, come out and do a tour, we're happy to do that. But the fact that just through the website and our social media, we're able to look professional enough and serious enough that people will drop their money online without even talking to us, feels good. And then I think we just make the whole process easy. I think a lot of people get concerned as to, all of the moving parts that are associated with this: cameras, lighting, is the space nice for clients and stuff like that. And I think that since we've made it so inviting and easy for you, it's kind of a no-brainer for people. I know it's easier said than done, but basically just be professional. When people reach out on the website or they have a question, I pick up the phone and I call them. I try not to email them if I can. If they give me their phone number, I'm going to call them, and most people really appreciate that. One thing that I've learned in business, in my time in business, is that there are those that are about it and there are those that are not about it. And as long as you are one of those guys or girls that is about it, you'll probably do better. People appreciate assertiveness and confidence and professionalism. And so just be as professional as you can be. Don't have an @Gmail account. Have a nice website. Pick up the phone call. Communicate with people. And finally, we just made it simple. I think one of the things that I was adamant about from the start is that we didn't a la carte pricing. We didn't make it confusing for people to book. We basically just had a simple, this is the price you pay. If you want to go and have editing and all that sort of stuff, it gets a little bit more complicated, but a good chunk of people just come in, record with us, we send them the raw file, and we call it a day. Most people are able to figure that out pretty easy, and anything that's completely done for you is obviously stuff that is appreciated from a client perspective. And so if you've made it to the end of this video, there's a good chance that you're interested in pursuing this from a business standpoint. And I think what I'm building within this group is going to be an absolute no-brainer and kind of a must-have for people that are interested in doing this. Obviously stoking a little bit of FOMO, but from even just a couple of my initial conversations with other business owners, it's been very interesting to see how many people are doing things differently than each other. And I feel like every time I have conversations projected for an hour, they last 2, sometimes 3 hours with people. And again, those conversations, while some of it will be posted on this YouTube here for free, the majority of them, the extended cuts and the more juicy bits, are going to be within this group. So if that is something that you think you are interested in pursuing, I strongly urge you to check out the group. At this point, it's just a wait list, and when we go live, you'll get a notification, and should you like to join, we'd love to have you. Signing off as Enova Digital for the last time on this channel, and I want to just give another big thanks to everyone that has reached out across these years in the comments and DMs, supporting me and being interested in what we have going on here. I really appreciate that, and I obviously wouldn't be able to do something like this or have the interest to do something like this if I didn't feel like the public, you guys, this was something that you were asking for. So if it was, if it wasn't, let me know in the comments below, but we will see you on the next one.